Welcome to Finely Fettled, the podcast where cannabis meets conversation and maybe a little chaos.
We're your hosts,
Jackie
and Tori, here to keep it real about our cannabis journeys, share some laughs, and potentially even drop a little knowledge along the way.
We're all about making cannabis fun, approachable, and a bit less intimidating, whether you're a seasoned smoker or just canna curious.
So sit back, spark up, and let's explore the highs, the lows, and everything in between.
Responsibly, of course. Let's get this sesh started.
Do not use cannabis if you are under the age of 21. Keep cannabis out of the reach of children. Please consume responsibly. Hello, everyone.
Hi.
Welcome back. Another episode of Finely Fettled.
And the last episode of this season.
Yes, guys. We are closing out the season with the one and only Eric Halpern. We finally brought him onto the pod. I think we've mentioned your name in probably every episode.
Yes.
So this is perfect to close it out for us.
Mm-hmm. I am honored.
Welcome. So yeah, if you guys have listened to any of our previous episodes, you've probably heard us mention the one and only Eric Halpern. I feel like you are a very integral part of the Fine Fettle fam here and have done a lot, starting from day one with the company and just really helped it grow since then. So yeah, you started with Fine Fettle as a pharmacist originally, and now you're our director of purchasing.
Commercial strategy.
Director of commercial strategy. So yeah, what a fun journey. So we'll dive into that. We're going to talk all things numbers, purchasing, what it was like in the early days, all types of fun stuff like that. But before we get started, let's talk about what we consumed responsibly this morning.
So I shared with you guys a Highsman Hit Stick, which is infused indoor flower that provides 6 to 10 hits at a time. It has a ceramic bowl that's optimized for airflow. And so this is allowing you to consume infused flower without it being in a pre-rolled joint, which is the most typical way to consume infused flower. It was designed by Ricky Williams, who has his own company here now. He's an actual expert ganjier, so he's gone through the process of becoming a true industry expert on cannabis and came up with these products.
I like that.
I know. I want to do that.
Yeah, so it's similar to a sommelier program or a Cicerone program. It's the expert certificate for cannabis. And so you fly out to California, you do all these in-person testing and sampling, and it's a whole experience on top of the education.
What? I need to do that.
I'm going to do that. Yeah. I feel like I would be good at this.
Yeah.
You'd be great at this.
But these were really cool, these little hit sticks. That's what they're called, right?
Yep.
Yeah, I don't even know how to describe them for our listeners, but they're basically like a one hitter, but it's a 6 to 8 hitter, and the flavor was really good. Mm-hmm. Like they tasted really nice.
Yeah, this was the mango one, and the great part is it's recyclable. So after you use it, the stem is recyclable.
Oh, that's nice.
It can be better for the environment than some other options out there.
Yeah, and it's nice to not smoke paper.
Exactly.
I like that.
Yeah,
nice and clean.
You guys can get them in our Massachusetts stores, West Springfield and Raleigh. Right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Also, we need to know a couple things that we ask all of our guests. So, first we need to know, what is your favorite thing to get at Trader Joe's?
So, I first have to share that the category of candy is one that I'm highly susceptible to. So I'm not a chocolate consumer.
Okay.
I'm a very much sour candy and gummy candy consumer.
Yep.
I'm talking infused and non-infused now, but we'll stick with Trader Joe's for a moment. Recently discovered their bacon and eggs sweet gummy candies.
Oh my God, my husband and I just got those. Oh my God, the eggs are so good.
The texture is so
it's
cool.
Top tier. It is top tier.
I'm so confused.
It doesn't taste like bacon and eggs.
I took out a picture for
it's just bacon and egg shaped gummy candy. Des and I were literally in Trader Joe's like a week ago, and I was like, let's just get these. Like, we have to.
It's one of those weird things. You're like, is this going to work? And like, oh yeah, it works.
Interesting.
I prefer the eggs more than the bacon, but I like
Same.
them both.
That is so funny.
I have to pick up at least 5 to 6 at a time now because
they're small.
My kids also love them.
Yeah.
So I can't finish them and not have a backup ready for the fan.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. That's so funny. Okay. Also, we need to know, what is your favorite strain?
Wedding cake, which I know is sort of a basic answer, but it's one of the first strains I ever consumed where my wife came to the sun and was like, wow, this smells good. And it was one of those strains where I could start to taste the flavor, notice the effects a bit different than other strains. And then I really got into Lost Farm gummies, and they have a wedding cake strain it's used to make one of their flavors. It's strain-specific live resin gummies.
That's awesome.
And I found that the effects from the gummy were just as enjoyable as the effects from a joint. So that's sort of become my go-to.
Yeah, nice.
I do like a wedding cake.
Yeah.
It is a solid strain. Whenever I see like a cross with it, I'm like, okay.
I feel like anything that has the word cake in it makes me so hungry. So I don't typically go for like wedding cake or
Really?
like LA Kush cake. Yeah, I don't know. The cake strains make me hungry.
I feel like the diesel strains make me hungry. I love the cakes and anything candy and like fruity.
Exactly. I mean, we're talking sweets right now.
Yeah,
so
that's my go-to.
it tracks.
Okay, so Eric, tell us about how you even got into the cannabis industry and where it all started for you and kind of how you got to where you are now.
For sure. So definitely a non-traditional route in the sense of the cannabis industry at a national level, but I guess pretty common at a Connecticut level. So I'm a pharmacist by training, went to UConn for my doctorate of pharmacy, worked in big box pharmacy for a very long time, thinking I'd be a retail pharmacist and pharmacy manager for my career from graduation until 65 years old or whatever retirement age is by the time we get there. And then the law for medical marijuana in Connecticut passed in 2012, the same month I graduated. And then the first 6 dispensaries opened in 2014. One of my original bosses and mentors became one of the original 6 dispensary pharmacists. And I remember doing a tour of their open house before they opened, and even just looking around and seeing the accessories and the posters on the wall and the information lying around. It's like, wow, this is a world I know absolutely nothing about. You know, in pharmacy school, you get 30 minutes of a education on cannabis where you just learn that THC is the intoxicating component of the plant, and that's about it. Because it isn't studied the FDA level, it's not doesn't go through the regular phases of drug approval to become a FDA-approved medication. Pharmacy schools just don't focus their education on it. It's really focused on what is traditional Western medicine. And so fast forward a bit, I started doing talks at pharmacy schools. I'm like, wow, the students really need to be exposed to this and learn about it and at least have it on their radar about what it is and how it can be used. So fast forward from 2014, 2019, Fine Fettle had started in Willimantic, and a good friend of mine started as the AGM and pharmacist in the Willimantic store. Dennis, shout out to Dennis.
Oh,
Dennis!
And
hey,
so,
Den.
Dennis and I had been chatting over the years about our careers, and he was sharing with me just how amazing it was to be with a startup, doing something totally new, totally out of the norm for a pharmacist, what we had expected to be doing with our careers. And I started following Fine Fettle on Instagram and watching Terp Tuesdays and, David doing explanations of accessories and products, and getting to know the company digitally through that platform started to make me feel connected before I even thought I'd have a chance at working at Fine Fettle. So throughout that summer, Fine Fettle had opened in Willimantic, and then they were gearing to open up in Newington. And Dennis and I had been talking about this and had a really good conversation, and I had the opportunity to open up the store with him as the AGM, as a pharmacist. And so I left everything I knew in the retail pharmacy world behind to join a startup in a space that I candidly didn't know much about at all. Read a book called Cannabis Pharmacy. That's how I say I got 80% of the knowledge to get my foot in the door and be able to speak with some level of confidence with patients about the products. And then I say the other 20%, talking with the staff, talking with patients. And then, over time, of course, it's an ongoing process of education. That's part of what I love about the industry is there's no standstill. There's no status quo. There's never a week that was the same as the week before. There's always something to learn about and to discuss and to look into, always new problems to solve and ways to, strategize how to improve the experience of our customers and patients, improve, the business of Fine Fettle, and also keep improving my own professional and personal growth. So started in the store as assistant general manager and pharmacist. Fast forward to now, I oversee pricing, procurement, and promotions for our 11 stores across Connecticut and Massachusetts.
Yeah, that's amazing. And that's you're so right, because they should be teaching more of the cannabis medications and things like that in schools. And we actually had JP, one of our pharmacists in Newington here, and he said he saw you talk at school, and that's what inspired him to get into the cannabis industry. And it's there is so much potential, and there is so much studying and everything that needs to still get done. So if we can get in at the college level and start, growing that knowledge there, then we can just expand it to everyone. Just me?
Absolutely.
Okay. So tell us a little bit more about what you do now and kind of what your method and strategy is for deciding what gets on our menus.
For sure. So one of our software vendors jokes that a lot of the cannabis buyers operate on vibes. And they just buy based off vibes. And I'm definitely not a vibe buyer. I'm a data-driven buyer. And so, you know, over the years, how I would have answered this question has changed. And again, which is why this is so exciting. It's the way I've approached it has changed so much as the company has grown, as my responsibilities have grown. So to start not all the way back, I didn't know anything about Excel. I didn't know what a pivot table was. I didn't know how to export something from a point of sale and like utilize that data. So I started really teaching myself how to use data to make purchasing decisions. At that time, I was only purchasing for Newington. We only had 4 vendors. So I really would do everything in the point of sale, and I had the time and ability to do that. Now with 11 stores, that's definitely not possible. So we utilize a buying platform called Happy Buyers, which plugs into our point of sale, allows us to get real-time information on inventory levels, sell-through. We can see how certain products are performing against others, how certain vendors and brands are performing against others. And really, I use that data paired with my relationships with our vendors and my knowledge of the markets to make sure we have the best SKUs on the menu at the best price points possible. And then, of course, having promotions that are attractive to customers and give them the best bang for their buck. And it's something that they want to look for and come back for because it is valuable to them. And so I'd say the way I construct the menus is knowing that everyone is, strapped for cash right now. And especially for medical marijuana patients, cannabis is not ever, no, I shouldn't say ever. At this point, it is not reimbursable through health insurance, being that it's federally Schedule I substance. Hopefully one day that changes and our medical marijuana patients can get reimbursed, for their purchases with us. But until then, I'm always strategically trying to develop a menu that allows our patients to have the most affordable access to the products to help them feel good and be well. And then on the rec side, similar concept. I want our customers to be able to get something that they find valuable, good quality, that they want to come back and buy more of and tell their friends about what they found at Fine Fettle and about their experience at Fine Fettle. So long story short, really using data to look at the sales trends that we have and this trend in the sales information we have to make decisions mostly based on that, but also paired with our gut, our logic, and then just knowing the market at large.
Yeah, so I was just going to ask, do you pay attention to what trends are happening and what certain products people are really into at certain times and then buy based on that? Yeah,
absolutely. And trends, that's another fun part of cannabis is trends are constantly changing as the space is innovating. It's not like other retail sectors where there's less innovation because it's frankly not needed. But in cannabis, there's so much catching up that this space has to do to other spaces where we are in an immature, I'd say, category and industry. And so I'm constantly looking at what is new, reading about new trends. I connect with a lot of other people in the industry on LinkedIn and see what's going on in other markets. And generally, whatever happens out west will eventually make its way out east. And so it's like a little crystal ball if you just keep your eye on the Western markets to know what New England will be shaped into at some point in the future.
Yeah, that makes sense. So what do you think one of the most up-and-coming trends is? What are we going to start seeing?
So what you guys just consumed, an infused product, that to me is the future of the pre-roll category. Somewhere you guys talked about Fog Cutter on another show, and I think products like that are able to give a boost in potency without a significant boost in price point. The average consumer right now is looking for potency and convenience, and so having something like an infused pre-roll or basically an infused one-hitter like this gives them the best bang for their buck that they're looking for. There will always be people that are looking for more specific strains or quality, people who aren't chasing those TAC numbers. That will always exist, but I think the majority of consumers are going to be looking for potency and find that infused products provides the potency they're looking for.
Love an infused product.
I was going to say I really do like an infused pre-roll.
And I think the other piece of that, this one was mango flavored. There's a lot of, in Connecticut, botanical terpenes aren't able to be used to produce products, so there are limits on how much fruity flavors come out in the market. But products like this that may mask the flavor of cannabis, may actually be more attractive to your new consumer who's coming in and doesn't necessarily like the smell or the taste of cannabis, but is looking for the effects of cannabis. And so botanical terpenes plus distillate or other types of concentrates can make an infused product palatable to people who may not have otherwise enjoyed cannabis.
Can we talk about these botanical terpenes? Like, I feel like there's some controversy around this. What are your thoughts?
So terpenes are chemical compounds that may come from different sources. So botanical terpenes are easier to source because you can get them from a product that never was cannabis or never could grow into cannabis, like lavender. So something like linalool could be extracted from lavender, and now you have a botanical terpene that could be used to infuse flower with flavor, infuse a vape with flavor, even certain types of edibles. In Connecticut, only hemp-derived terpenes are allowed, which means it's coming from a plant that has less than 0.3% THC, but it has the terpenes that provide the same effects and flavor as botanical terpenes. But they're much more regulated because as hemp is much more regulated than a lavender plant. They're much less accessible, and there's certain lab requirements needed in Connecticut to bring in those terpenes. It is to ensure consumer safety, and I do appreciate that. It does make it more challenging from a product development perspective to bring products into Connecticut, especially the ones like this that have like very extreme fruity non-cannabis flavors.
Do you know if like Massachusetts started that same way with like not having botanicals at first, or were they able to just do it?
Yeah, they were able to do it. And, before Rec in Connecticut, the most terpenes and products were extracted in-house from the plant itself. So part of the distillation or extraction process is concentrating THC out of the plant material, and in that process, you also extract terpenes, and those can be reclaimed and reintroduced into SKUs. So, for example, AGL's cartridges have been full spectrum, and what that means is they're using strains from that specific plant reintroduced back into the oil to give that oil flavor and a more true-to-plant experience.
Yep.
The addition of terpenes didn't really start happening until rec happened, and there was a bigger explosion of vapes and SKUs and brands, and that's when companies started using more hemp-derived terps to formulate vapes in Connecticut.
Got it. Okay.
I know there's some people who think that adding in the terpenes is like not staying true to like the essence of the plant. What are your thoughts on that? Totally.
So with cannabis concentrates, I'd say there's two different goals, and those two different goals have two different audiences. There's the goal of being the highest THC possible. What happens there is you're extracting all of the plant material, including other cannabinoids and terpenes, to get that THC up as high as possible. Even sometimes it can be 98% THC in an oil that has to be thinned out for it to be used in a vape. And so adding in terpenes will reduce the percentage of THC, but provide the oil the right viscosity to be able to vaporize. What's happening there is those terpenes being reintroduced. They could be from the strain itself, like we discussed in that older example. They could be hemp-derived terps. Other markets, they could be botanical terps. Regardless, it's something being added in that may have been taken away at one point in the process or was never present in that strain and oil from the first place. Those are your THC hunting customers. Those are your flavor-chasing customers. I'd say fruity flavor-chasing customers. On the other side, you have solventless products like rosin, where only pressure is applied to extract THC, cannabinoids, terpenes. Those products do not get nearly as high in THC because you're not using any sort of chemical or other substance to pull out those lipids and other pieces of plant material that decrease the potency. And so those rosin products are the most true to the plant. They will generally have a flavor that's much more like consuming cannabis and often have effects that are much more like consuming an actual joint or flower in some other format. Rosin can also be made into food-grade rosin to be used in edibles. So I'd say that those edibles also have a much more full-spectrum, full-body effect that gives you an experience like smoking versus a distillate-based gummy, which is often just isolated THC, which can get the job done. But it's different than what you get with a solventless product like rosin.
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. Do you think that one of them is like better for you than the other?
I would say from an inhalation perspective, I would say rosin, because there never was any sort of chemical used to extract that product. With regular vapes, that is the majority of vapes in the market. It will likely remain the majority of vapes in the market because it's so much more cost effective to produce than rosin. So, for example, a full gram cartridge in our Massachusetts stores of distillate maybe $20, and a half gram cartridge of rosin maybe $30. So people really have to be willing and able to spend more for that higher quality product. But to answer your question, with all this, one of the other challenges with being a Schedule I substance is it's really, really challenging to do actual clinical trials and studies with these products. So a lot of what we work with is hypothetical or based off anecdotes from other industries or very small studies that typically wouldn't be considered large enough to draw conclusions from in other spaces. And so I know I'm avoiding answering the question, but it's because, I'm a data-driven person. We don't have enough data on a lot of this to answer the question.
That's fair.
Hey guys, we got to take a quick break to tell you about Comfy, one of our absolute favorite cannabis brands right now.
If you want flower or pre-rolls that consistently hit just right, fresh, smooth, and made with care, Comfy's where it's at.
And what's really cool is it's all grown locally, right here in Connecticut at Fine Fettle's new Bloomfield facility. It's the first facility in the state built under the Social Equity Program. So you're not only getting quality, you're also supporting something bigger.
Each plant gets the perfect growing conditions to bring out the best flavors, terpenes, and potency. It's the kind of quality you notice.
No matter if you're winding down, sparking up, or just chilling, Comfy's got the vibe you need. Head to finefettle.com and grab some. Trust me, your stash will thank you.
Edibles are not one size fits all. That's why the Happy Confection makes THC gummies with dialed-in ratios and strain-specific terps that hit just right every time. They're gluten and tree nut free, vegan, and chef-crafted locally in Westbrook, Connecticut.
Find them at a Fine Fettle near you and turn life's little moments into big reasons to smile. The Happy Confection, crafted for joy.
Okay, so going back to the trends, what have you seen that is completely different trend-wise from where we were a year ago?
I would say just disposable vapes. A year ago, a lot of them were expensive. They'd often fail. There were some out there that weren't rechargeable, so you'd get it from the dispensary. The oil would still be in there. You'd come running back to the dispensary because the thing was dead. As the disposable hardware has become more affordable, based off what can be manufactured typically overseas, there is some done here in the U.S. as well. Companies have been able to transition into better quality and lower price disposable units. So, for example, in Massachusetts, we have dual chamber disposables. There has been a couple in here in Connecticut as well. But dual chamber disposables have one oil on one side and another on the other side. And so you may have a indica oil on one side and sativa oil on the other side, or a hybrid on both sides. And you can mix effects, you can mix flavors, you can switch back from one to the other. Here in Connecticut, we have Amigos now, which isn't truly dual chamber, but you can put two units together to meld those two flavors together. I think that sort of evolution in innovation, experience, and also having something like that at a more affordable price point is a change that we didn't really see much a year ago, and is the trend that we'll continue to see as people value convenience and value and potency, I'd say, over most other things. It's, brand recognition in cannabis can be very challenging because there isn't true interstate commerce. Brands that even exist in multiple markets may not be known to people outside those markets. And so it's hard to get something like Cheerios or Hershey's that you just walk into a store and you expect to see, that doesn't exist in cannabis and really won't until federal rescheduling happens and the regulations get to a point that allow interstate commerce.
Yeah. What do you see, the difference between Connecticut buyers or Connecticut customers and Massachusetts customers? What types of products are each going for? Is there a difference, or is it generally the same?
No, and this is public data, so I'm not sharing any secret tea here. But Connecticut customers are buying much more vapes relative to the Massachusetts market and less flower products. So
interesting.
What happened was we had a flower outage a year and a half ago, just over a year and a half ago, where the market was basically cleared out. Supply was not keeping up with demand in the state of Connecticut. Part of what caused that was we only had a handful of people growing cannabis in Connecticut. It was really just the 4 that had been here since 2014, and then one other grower at that time. And so in every new adult use market, supply and demand is a very tricky balance to find. You don't want to jump into an oversupply because, of course, then the cultivators and manufacturers are sitting on product. You don't want to be undersupplied because then you get into the situation we got into. Ideally, there's a nice balance of it. But what happened was flower became unavailable in the state of Connecticut. I was on my computer at every point in time where I knew something new was going to be released. And if I didn't order it in those 5 minutes, it was gone.
That's crazy.
That is crazy. That was such a wild time.
Yes. And, we had multiple stores at the time. So, one of the challenges with ordering for, I believe it was 4 stores at the time, possibly 5, was you have to go into these menus and order the same thing for each store. Meanwhile, every other buyer is out there fighting for the same inventory. So sometimes I'd get something for one store of ours, and I couldn't even get it for the next store.
Yeah.
And so our menus started to become very sparse. People found they could drive to Massachusetts and get cannabis. They may reconnect with someone who used to be someone they would purchase cannabis from outside of a dispensary. And the market never really recovered from that. So ever since then, we came out of that with flower pricing being very, very high. Meanwhile, Massachusetts was starting to see its price compression, and the prices were becoming significantly lower. Also, at the time, you couldn't buy a full ounce in a single transaction in Connecticut. A lot of people go to Massachusetts because they want to buy a full ounce in a single transaction. And so the vape category has continued to grow here, and we've seen a lot of success. Flower is not as big of a part of the industry in Connecticut as it is in Massachusetts or really any other market across the nation that allows the selling of smokable flower.
Okay. And what trends are really popular in Massachusetts?
So the large format packaging, half ounces and ounces, has really started to take off. As prices compress, the price of an eighth compared to the price of a half ounce or ounce becomes much less spread apart. And so what I mean by that is we may have an eighth for $25 on the menu, but we can have a half ounce for $55 on the menu and a full ounce for $99 on the menu. And so people who are not looking for the strain variety but looking for value and convenience love to just pick up a half ounce or an ounce and be on their way. In Connecticut, that has literally just started because as of September 1st, customers can buy full ounce in a transaction. So we're starting to see some ounce packaging here in Connecticut. But the price relative to eighths isn't that much of a value. And so people are still, by and large, buying eighths here versus larger format flower in Massachusetts.
Okay. I am like a variety shopper, I think. I like to switch it up. I don't like to have one strain for too long.
Shout out to the Massachusetts Mix and Match.
Yes! Absolutely.
Which really, I started working with our Raleigh store back in August of 2023. And at that time, my exposure to Massachusetts was just looking at retail menus. I never was involved on the buying side of things. It was handled by a buyer in the store. And then the opportunity came for me to step up and become involved in the store. And like I said, I always love a good challenge. And at that point, Connecticut just wasn't really expanding. There wasn't much innovation. There wasn't much newness. And so there wasn't a lot for me to be strategic with, to be honest with you. Whereas Massachusetts has over 200 different vendors, a unbelievable amount of SKU assortment and availability and unique products available from across the state. Really, really good quality product that I was able to start learning about, talking with vendors about. And Raleigh had this $110 mix and match ounce, but it wasn't advertised. So people didn't know it existed. The pricing of flower on the menu at that time was different than the strategy I've deployed since then. And essentially, the online menu wasn't doing us any favors. So one of the first things I realized was people want good weed at a good price.
Yeah.
Let's make that happen. We can offer $110 mix match ounce. Let's shout that from the rooftops.
Yeah.
So that really just getting the right flower at the right price on the menu paired with advertising that mix and match was one of the pieces I believe that turned the store around, and also in West Springfield has helped us to be extremely successful, offering great variety at a great price point. My goal is people come in, if they come in every 2 weeks or once a month, there's always a brand new set of product for them to try. And you sort of asked about how I approach buying, and I truly believe in variety when it comes to flower and pre-rolls, less so with vapes and edibles. Flower and pre-rolls, people often actually don't want to consume the same strain over and over. When I was in the store, patients would report to me that if they consumed the same strain for too long, it actually became less effective at improving their symptoms. So they actually needed that strain rotation for their symptom benefit. And so, that's looking at it from a healthcare perspective, and then just thinking from a retail perspective, and how other spaces operate, like craft beer. The newness is always so important to keeping people's attention, having them want to look at their menu, wanting to come in and ask the staff what they're trying, what's new on the menu, what's fresh. One thing we do is we put all expiration dates on our menu in Massachusetts, which is pretty much unheard of across that market. And that was something, we do here by regulation, but in Massachusetts, you don't have to. You don't have to test for terpenes in Massachusetts.
Really?
So it's actually an added cost for cultivators to test for terpenes.
Really?
Yeah, really. So, I pushed, and I have a knowledge of our tech stack where I knew we could push expiration dates to our menu. So it's not perfect. It's not harvest date. It's not package date. It's generally a year from when the product's tested. But at least that way, when someone opens up our, $110 ounce menu, they can have an idea of how fresh certain strains are. And that pushes me to be more efficient in ordering and make sure that we're bringing in product and turning it quickly enough to make room for the next thing and constantly be bringing in fresh product. I was looking at a menu in Connecticut this weekend that has product from November of last year on their menu still. And, that's an extreme, of course, but I can only imagine how negative that customer experience will be,
right?
Especially if they're not paying attention to that information.
Right, of course. And so what about, like, you personally? What's your favorite way to consume? Are you a vape, edible, flower?
This has so much transformed over the years. My journey began when I started at Fine Fettle. I had only experimented with cannabis. I could count on one hand the number of times I experimented with it, and then started talking, read the book Cannabis Pharmacy, started talking with patients, got more comfortable with it, realized I had symptoms that could be improved with medical marijuana, and I qualified for a medical marijuana card. But being the science mind that I am, I started with tinctures and capsules because I wanted to try the things that felt the most familiar from a dosage format. And then eventually I started trying vapes, and then eventually I graduated to flower and pre-rolls. Yeah. Still don't know how to roll a joint, but I can, buy joints.
It's unbelievable to me. Eric, you really had me fooled. Like, the first time I, really hung out with Eric was before I was, officially on the marketing team. And I weaseled my way into NECAN of 2023, right? Was it?
Yeah, I think so.
And Eric just, had all these pre-rolls he was, offering us. And I was like, oh, my God, this guy is a total stoner. He really gets after it. And now I've learned Eric is just a little baby stoner.
Yeah. It's been the past 6 years.
Yeah.
But when I'm into something, I get really into it.
Yeah.
I used to be this way. I was a craft beer nerd for a long time, traveling to everywhere in Vermont, all the way to California, trading beers through the mail. That passion started to translate into cannabis when I started working in it, and I realized how similar the cannabis community is to the craft beer community. And it's search for freshness, it's search for flavor, it's search for community, and being around other people that consume the same thing and want to talk about the same thing and share the same thing.
Yeah.
And so as I got further away from craft beer and more into cannabis, that really became my career and my passion, which is an interesting overlap. But I started wanting to just learn everything and try everything and see firsthand how it could improve my quality of life and also just my experience as a human in this world.
Right.
So to answer your question, I would say now fast-acting gummies are my favorite thing because I can take one and know by the time my butt hits the couch or my head hits the pillow that I am experiencing and enjoying those effects.
Yep.
Also, on a really beautiful night out, I'll either use a joint or a dryer vaporizer to enjoy some flower.
Okay.
One of my other favorite ways to consume flower is a product called a dart, which is a one-hitter that has a filter in the tip of it that's interchangeable. So it allows you to really use a 1/4 gram of flower at a time. And every time you change that filter, you see all the stuff it's catching as you inhale through the dart. And it's spring-loaded, so you don't get sticky fingers. You can load it up and empty it all without touching the actual flower.
Cool.
What?
Yep.
That's really cool.
I haven't heard of this.
Me either.
So I keep a little canister of pre-ground flower in my case.
Yep.
So if I'm at a concert or a festival, I can just take it out, load it, enjoy it, clear it, and be on my way.
I'm going to have to find one of these.
Me too.
Well, we happen to carry them at some point at the store called Fine Fettle.
Oh,
some
I've
stores
heard of it.
may still have it on the shelf.
Stop, really?
Yeah.
That's funny.
I'm a bad consumer.
Yeah, I had no clue about these darts.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't think I've seen them.
They have an uphill battle because smoking joints is just so common and familiar to people. And anytime you get someone to try to consume flower outside of a joint, bowl, or bong, there's a learning curve there, and people don't necessarily even think to look for another way to consume. But something like the dart, something like a dryer vaporizer, like a PAX or a Volcano, are another thing that I think is a trend that will continue to grow in cannabis. As people do look for healthier ways to consume cannabis, you know, being more healthy is, of course, a very growing trend right now. People are going away from alcohol. People are consuming more supplements. People are investing more in themselves and their health and wellness than I think ever before. And, of course, cannabis has a great intersection with health and wellness. But combustion is just not a healthy way to consume cannabis. But it has been done for thousands of years. And so I think as companies find, frankly, cheaper ways for people to get their hands on devices to consume cannabis that don't actually combust the flower, like a dryer vaporizer, I think those spaces will continue to grow. And there will be an evolution to a customer who one day gets into flower but never smokes a joint because they're just so used to these other forms of consumption.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like, especially with like the younger generation, like I feel like they're all vaping more, doing edibles instead of like smoking flower.
Totally.
So,
what is a product that you would recommend to somebody who's like just getting into cannabis?
So we have a product in Massachusetts called Good Vibes, which is technically called a tincture. And what that means is in Massachusetts, you can generally buy 500 milligrams of an edible product in one transaction. That's equivalent in Massachusetts to an ounce of flower. With a tincture, you can buy 5,000 milligrams in a single transaction. So Good Vibes has come up with different flavors and three different dosages actually, but 500 milligrams in a bottle, 1,000 milligrams in a bottle. They now have Pocket Vibes, which is 150 milligrams in a bottle. And you can titrate to your desired dosage. So whether you're a microdoser and you want 2 milligrams of THC, or you're a macrodoser and you want to chug the 1,000 milligram bottle. Yes. And it can be consumed orally just like that. It doesn't have to go into a beverage, but most people put it in beverages. You can also use it to infuse food. But I love it because it's fast acting.
Yep.
It can be flavorful, or you can buy the unflavored one and really take something as familiar as a mocktail or a soda or a coffee.
Yep.
Adds THC into it, and it's a familiar medium for consuming cannabis. And because it's the way it works, it's fast acting, and it shouldn't last really more than 4 to 6 hours. It shouldn't have someone feeling super high for too long if they do use too much of it.
Right.
I was going to say, I definitely have gotten the Good Feels, the strawberry one. They do make phenomenal mocktails.
Yeah.
Really good.
Yeah.
Tori, remember like last summer we had one of those?
Yes.
We like split one of the like 500 milligram bottles or something crazy.
Yeah, I was definitely fettled.
We were fettled.
AF.
Yeah.
And a lot of the products that came before it were really syrupy, like high fruit, like just like cough syrup kind of consistency. And other companies went more for the party vibe, the shot, literally like the shot that you hand out to friends and all take a shot of it. And Good Vibes wanted more of a chill vibe.
Yeah.
And so they put a dropper in it so you can measure out how much you needed. And it's in a package that is, I think, is more familiar to people than some of these other products that were more in like a 5-hour energy type bottle that you couldn't measure. And so how do you pick up one of those 100 milligram bottles and measure out your 2.5 milligrams? It just isn't happening.
Yeah.
So
the Good Vibes is such a good product.
Yeah.
I love it.
Big fans.
So I say beverage in general because it's so familiar to people, but then specifically that product because you can make a Cannabev out of anything.
Yeah.
Shout out to the Cannabev space here in Connecticut, which has been really exciting to watch innovation happen. 2 brands that I have to mention are Muse and Float House. So
I knew you were going to mention Float House.
Yeah.
Gotta.
So Muse took the category of seltzer and I think really elevated it to a much more flavorful product that's still very low in calories and just the right amount of sweetness. A lot of seltzers, in my opinion, either have no flavor or have so much sugar added to them that they're not even seltzers anymore.
Yeah.
Whereas Muse is made with real fruit flavor, and it has 3 milligrams of THC in it. Hemp beverages in Connecticut are limited to 3 milligrams, but it's a great starting point for someone. So someone who's never consumed cannabis before probably I say probably could have a 3 mg drink and feel okay and not overwhelmed. Then there's people who know that 10 milligrams is their sweet spot, so they can have a few of them while hanging out and still be sort of building up to their ideal dosage. Float House created non-alcoholic brews that contain THC. So that's been a really cool intersection of craft beer and cannabis, where there's a growing, like you said, population of especially younger people who are looking to abstain or reduce the amount of alcohol they consume. But someone like me who still loves the taste of beer, and I'm still, my palate loves a good IPA.
Yeah.
But I just don't really enjoy alcohol anymore. So Float House figured out the crazy science of how do you blend THC into a non-alcoholic brew. They have an IPA and a light that are able to have the same bite as a beer, but the buzz from THC.
I know. I love it. I'm really not a huge beer person, but the Float House lights are really good, and I definitely am going to start drinking those. Add those into the rotations.
Highly recommend.
Seltzers. Yeah, they're good. They really are. The flavor's good. You can't even really taste the cannabis.
No.
So
that's how you know it's well done.
Yeah.
And that's what you have to be able to do to be successful in the space, because your average consumer that's grabbing a beverage probably doesn't want it to taste like weed.
Right.
And that's, one huge leap in innovation in the space. And so Keef was one of the original infused beverages with sodas out in Colorado. And at that time, from what I've read, is, there was some oil separation. They didn't mix well. You had some sips that tasted like soda and some tips that just tasted like some weed in your mouth. And it just wasn't the best experience as a consumer. Now we are at this place where we have fast-acting, perfectly blended, a million different flavors to choose from. It's been really cool to see that expand, and that is, in my opinion, one of the biggest other categories of growth expansion that we'll see in the near future.
Yeah, very cool. All right, well, this has been an absolute blast. Is there anything else that we wanted to chat about before we wrap it up?
Do you have any final remarks, Eric?
Keep checking us out. We're always expanding our menu. We're always adding new things. We, of course, have Comfy now.
Yeah.
But really, one of my priorities with our purchasing strategy is to always have that newness, always have that innovative product on the menu. If there's something that's not on our menu, let the team know. We're not this huge company that has a tons of layers of separation of our team members on the floor to myself driving the strategy. I want to hear people's thoughts and opinions and get feedback on product and be able to provide what the people want at the right price. That's my main goal.
We love it. We love to hear it.
I love giving Eric my feedback.
Me too. I love being a product tester.
Yes.
For you.
It's super helpful. I need the help. I can't test it all myself.
Yeah.
Right.
I am an annoying customer, so I feel like that helps. I'm very picky about what I like and what I don't like when it comes to cannabis.
And if we can have the right variety for you, then we can probably have the right variety for a lot of other people.
Yep, exactly.
I'm doing it. I'm doing it for the greater good.
You're putting the work in.
All right. This has been so fun. Thank you so much for coming on. Really appreciate you and
My
everything
pleasure.
that you're doing for Fine Fettle.
This is great. Appreciate you guys.
Yeah. All right, guys. Make sure you follow us on Instagram, finelyfettled.pod. Please write into us. Let us know what products you're trying, what you would like to see more of. podcast@finefettle.com. And that'll do it.
That'll do it
For
Thank
this
you.
season. Thank you guys for listening and coming along with us on this journey.
Yeah.
Great work this season, Tori and Jackie. This has been phenomenal.
Thank
you, Eric. All right, guys. Please consume responsibly. Stay safe out there.
Thank you.
Do not use cannabis if you are under the age of 21. Keep cannabis out of the reach of children. Please consume responsibly.